Greetings to everyone. Today, we, Tasveer, will be interviewing India's first female cybercrime inspector, Dr. Dhanya Menon, about cyber harassment and other allied crimes. This interview marks the first of various interviews being conducted by the organization to raise awareness towards sensitive cybercrimes. According to Michigan Tech University, cyber harassment includes conduct without the consent of the individual. This includes harassing texts, emails, and publishing like blogs or websites that are dedicated to insulting a particular individual. This, however, does not include constitutionally protected speech and expression. In India, such a cybercrime is dealt under two major legislations, the Information Technology Act 2000 and the Indian Penal Code 1860. Now, to further introduce our guest interviewee today, Dr. Dhanya Menon has more than 12 years of experience dealing with cyber crimes like visual morphing, obscenity, identity theft, to cyberstalking, etc. Her first case involved a fake profile on pre-Facebook era player Orkut. Now, she is a director at Avanza Cybersecurity Solutions Private Limited. We're extremely grateful to have you today, ma'am. With your permission, should we begin with the questions?
Yes. Good morning. Just a small correction. I'm not a cybercrime inspector. I'm a cybercrime investigator. I'm not in the police department.
All right, ma'am. So first of all, do you believe that the legal remedies provided in India to combat sensitive cybercrimes are sufficient?
Well, yes, I think India has one of the strongest acts today, and we are one of the first few countries who came in together to formulate this act and start working on this subject. So I think we are good enough when you compare with the other laws and other regulations that we have in India. We have a good document in place, but implementation or usage of the document is still $1 million question. I agree.
All right, ma'am. So, ma'am, could you please throw some light on how cyber stalking is different from cyber harassment and what kind of people usually fall prey to such crimes?
Cyber stalking is one of the cyber harassments that you can talk about. Cyber harassment is more of a broader terminology, where cyber stalking is one of the particular, one of the aspects of harassment. So if you look at it, cyber stalking, basically, it is not defined in the act as a crime, as an offense per se. So cyber stalking, whenever there is a stalking that is happening, or more to say, there are different kind of harassments which happen on the cyberspace, but most of them are not defined as offenses per se in this particular act. But instead, what we will have to do is we'll have to find out how this has been done, how the crime has taken place, what is the impact that is caused, to bring it under the purview of law and crime and punishment, etc. like that. So it is not that, every harassment has been defined in the law per se. So stalking is just one part of the bigger terminology called harassment. If you get unwanted, so unsolicited messages continuously over a period of time, it is harassment itself. So you have a trial regulation which says you can put your number under D&D for unsolicited messages or calls. And in spite of that, if you get calls or messages, unsolicited calls or messages, you can actually go for a compensation. Per message, you can claim a compensation of 2 lakhs. So from even that is a part of harassment. You start getting messages saying, forward this message 10 times, you'll get good news in 10 minutes. So anything that disturbs your normal course of lifestyle, it doesn't help, it disturbs your kind of routine. It disturbs your proper, calm livelihood, which is your basic constitutional right. It comes under the purview of harassment. But stalking is a particular kind of harassment where somebody consciously takes the effort of following you, especially online. When we're talking about stalking as cybercrime, they follow you online continuously. They need not intend any harm. They need not. They need not actually perpetrate a harm. See, if somebody just simply follows me, says, okay, Dhanya, you are on through shoot today. Good morning. Tomorrow I'm traveling to Delhi. They say, okay, I know you are in Delhi. Good morning. Have a nice day. This is enough. So what is the harm they are causing? But then it can cause a fear in me that somebody is being following me and they may cause harm to me. So that itself comes under the purview of stalking. These kind of issues happen a lot among women and children, if you actually ask me, because the possibility of having fake profiles, of not having any verified methodology to start a virtual ID, actually facilitates people having fake IDs, and then it helps them to follow others online, to get information online. So stalking is just one part of harassment, and kind of people falling prey. Like, we have had cases like from a 5-year-old child to 74-year-old people falling prey to stalking. We have had people from different economic spectrums falling prey to it. If you look at the organizational crimes, people on the high end HNI profiles, or probably people working on the top management level, people are also stalked. We need not know also. See, maybe there is somebody stalking me now, right at the moment when I'm talking to you, but I'm not aware of it. So it could be a million ways. If you actually look at it, the followers who follow most of the people online, they're also in one way stalking. Every information that you put out or you don't put out, they need it. So 2 days I don't put out a post online, there are people who actually call me up and ask, are you okay? All right, are you okay? So the basic thing is that if I'm not posting something online, it means there's some harm to me, I'm not well, or probably even I'm dead. There is a lot of assumptions that go by in that way. There are, even that can be defined as stalking if it hurts me or if it starts to disturb me.
All right, ma'am. So what is your opinion on the Mrs. Rsritukoli case, which was India's first case on cyber stalking?
Actually, if you look at it, it's a sad thing that the case was not registered first, and then the identity was. There was a lot of confusion about whether all this happens in the initial years of any kind of a new change that you're talking about, because the act itself is only 22-year-old now. If you look at 2000, 2002 is when we saw the act actually getting published in the Gazette. 2004 is when we actually saw certain changes happening in this particular area. So all these, I still remember we didn't know how to register cases initially. We didn't know how to confiscate evidence initially. So it was all a learning process, not just for laymen, but also for professionals involved in this particular area. And it's not just in India; it's world over. The scenario is the same. So in Rsritukoli's case also, if I remember right, the fact is that the case was not registered initially. There were a lot of problems. So collection of evidence was a problem.
Right.
Now relating that to the particular IP address or to the person was a problem. So all these things, I think, went to a lot of a lot of changes, a lot of thought processes being put in by the legal system or legal fraternity and the law enforcement authority as well. And we saw Section 60A come in, which actually professionals like me, we were very happy about it, thrilled about it, because we knew, okay, a lot of issues can be brought under the Section 66A. But again, we saw that the same Section 66A was scrapped off by the Honorable Supreme Court, because it was argued that there was a lot of chaining or control over the media persons involved, which is again true. Media should have a certain level of freedom to bring out truth to the public, because that is what their job is. So when you have an open section like that, like how we had Section 66A, it was difficult for media people to bring in. See, anybody talking, any criticizing anybody could also be brought under the purview of illegal activity. So we saw Section 66A come in. We saw a lot of issues with Section 66A, unfortunately being misused more than used. And then it got scrapped off again. Personally, I was of the opinion that, Section 66A should not have been scrapped off. Instead, certain rules and regulations should have been brought into place. So looking forward to certain changes when the data protection law, rules and regulations also come into place. Let's see what happens.
All right. So among other such crimes, there is also cyber defamation, which has actually been picking up a lot recently. How do you believe that the SMC Pneumatics India Private Limited versus Jogesh Quatra case verdict changed the course of cyber laws in the country?
The same thing, like the previous case, every case that gets registered or that got registered during the earlier stages, it was all a learning experience, and it all brought out some kind of a change. Now, if you look at this SMC pneumatics case versus Jogesh, the verdict actually brought about the change in the sense, that it gave certain directions on how to link the digital evidence with the physical human being. So there was a lot of unrest. There's a lot of uncertainty about, okay, how do you link this? Earlier, the system was not like that. You bring in somebody, the suspect is brought in, there's a confession statement and all that, and you link it to physical evidence. Now, and also there was if I remember that case well, I think there was some issue with the retrieval of the data, evidentiary data, and also relating the retrieved data for reproduction in the court, because there was a time lapse which happened. So there was a debate on Section 65B of Evidence Act also in this case. So there were changes in the Section 65B of Evidence Act of how you can or how the evidence should be presented, what all are the changes that are required. Can anybody just bring in a printout and say, this is happening? And that is when I think in this case, there was an argument also about manipulating the printouts, whether it could be manipulated or not. And it was proved in the court that any printout could be manipulated, which is true. So how do you retrieve the evidence, store the evidence, what format, how does a court want the evidence to be represented in the court to retain the evidentiary value? So all that was debated upon, and Section 65B was also amended after that case, to the best of my memory. Thank you.
That's really insightful how these cases essentially just change the course of cyber laws in the country.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to the next question. I'm sorry,
we have to actually change every day, because see, one particular thing about this particular the space called cyberspace is that technology grows at an impeccable speed. Law cannot match the speed. Law always follows the technology. So it is always 2 steps behind the technology. And it cannot happen that, the technology grows every microsecond, but law takes its own course of time to change, because it has to go through a particular system and a methodology to change, where the technology is not bound like that. So we have to wait and see. Yes.
All right. So that brings us to the next set of questions. Do you believe that crimes like this, cyber stalking, image-based sexual abuse, do you think these are gender-based crimes? And do you think they affect women more?
The reporting more happens as far as women are concerned. It's not that it happens more on women, but reporting happens more on women because, I think as girls, this society teaches the girls, it's okay for them to complain. It's okay for them to cry and ask for help. But there is still a kind of a concept which goes in, which the society today, even today, unfortunately, tries to tell the boys around us that, if you're a boy, you can't complain, you can't cry, you cannot be cheated. If you're a boy, you cannot be cheated. How can you be cheated? You're supposed to be somebody's very superior. So all these kind of things, psychological things, still go into the child's mind. So there's very little complaints that come up as far as the male gender is concerned. Therefore, the reporting happens more on the women. But if you ask me, it is both the segments are, or even the transgender segment, they are susceptible to this kind of crimes, and I don't see any kind of a difference in the impact of such crimes at all. Well, as my NGO called Avanzo, we deal with a lot of children's issue. Therefore, we would say we get more reports on kids. Children under 18 are the cases that gets reported most in our NGO. So that is they're the number of cases which are largely handled by my NGO.
All right, ma'am. It was really interesting how you talked about certain psychological changes which lead to a greater reportage of crimes against women. So could you please emphasize on these social causes and legal deficiencies which serve as reasons behind the growth of cybercrimes against women?
I don't think you can actually attribute anything to the legal system in this particular area that I'm talking about. It is basically the social stigma that follows everyone. See, if you ask me, I think the report, even the police reports that go in are not even 1% of the crimes that happen around. All right. So not even 1% of these clients or the people who come to our NGO or come to me actually are ready to go walk up to the police station and file a complaint. So they'll say they want, they're very excited about finding the culprit, getting justice and all that. And the moment you say, okay, you have to go to the police station, get an FIR done, and we cannot do it for you. See, I cannot go and find an FIR for somebody else. They have to do it themselves. So when the moment we say that, they say, okay, then let me just think, let's just come back. There is a social stigma attached to some people going to the police station, which is absolutely not necessary. See, the legal system is part of your daily existence, which everybody needs to understand. But there is a stigma which says, if you are not the inverted comma goody person, that is when you actually walk up to the police station or you go to the court. So there is a lot of social stigma that comes in, which is again applicable to all the genders in the society, all the segments of the society, and all the class. And there is again something where the men are reluctant to even say that they have been cheated. It's just not a relationship or blackmail which they don't want to report, even if they get into a financial fraud. To a large extent, men don't complain. They don't even raise a report because they say, okay, I cannot tell somebody else that somebody cheated me. So there is a big social this is something which probably all of us have to evolve, understand that we're all humans, we make mistakes, and own up the mistakes. It's just not for us to get the justice that we have to own up such things. It is also because unless we raise our voice, our next generation is not going to be safe from this. So that is some kind of a extended responsibility which has to be instilled in every generation, at least from now on, which is not there in the society today. Today, if I make a mistake and I own up to the mistake, I will be stigmatized saying that, oh, she made a mistake. There is no credit given to me for the fact that I stood up, I raised my voice for the mistake I made, and I asked for justice if I have been violated. So this is just not on the cybercrimes aspect alone. Everything. See, and if you look at it, most of the domestic violence is tolerated in India by women or even men just because of this. They don't want to go through the social stigma. But instead, everybody prefers to sit down in a corner and then play the victim role with the neighborhood and just get some sympathy kind of a thing. They don't work towards a solution part of it, basically because of the social stigma, which needs to be really, we need to get out of it. I don't know how, but then we need to.
Yes, I totally agree with you when you say that we do not recognize this extended responsibility half of the time, and we really should. And this is the kind of change that we need in our society. So that brings us to statistics show that cyber awareness among people in India is really low. So what could be the reason behind this?
Cyber awareness is very low because all of us just started using this particular space and we're nose down diving in the space. We have not learned how to use it. Did you and I learn how to use it? No, we just started using it one fine day, and then once you're addicted into the space, you cannot walk back from it. Yes, all right, so this is something which we have not learned. We were not taught how to drive before we started using even the Lamborghini on the in the traffic of cyberspace. So there is a lack of awareness, absolutely. Now, if you ask me, is there a lack of awareness on the IT platform? No, everybody knows how to use the cyberspace. But what is the other side of the coin? Nobody knows. We're not discussing about it enough.
So, ma'am, how do you believe and how can you suggest that organizations like ours make the Indian population more aware of such daunting cybercrimes?
The main thing is that, any kind of, how to prevent an issue is to get people understand that there is an issue. Make them realize that there is an issue, accept that there's an issue. How do we do it? We have to educate them. So this is something which we had started off, me and my NGO had started off in the year 2010, where we decided, the awareness needs to be given. And then for the first 2-3 years, what we did is we did a lot of seminars, workshops. There was a year when I think I did about 130 workshops in a year among school and college students. But then finally, at the end of this 3 years, what I realized is that, okay, they hear it from you for about half an hour, 1 hour, and then they just walk out, and there's a lot of peer pressure happening, and then they fall into the same group. So it is more like a marketing activity for me, where I go and tell them, you will fall into trouble someday. If you fall into trouble, reach out to me. which was not something which I wanted. I wanted them to understand and be safe, not, to know or understand that there is somebody there you can reach out to if you are into a problem. Of course, if you are in problem, please reach out. We'll do what best we can. That's a different issue, completely different issue. But as a mass, what me and my organization wanted to do basically is to get the children into a safer society. So that is when we actually formulated a course called Cyber Awareness Program, CAP. It is coined under the name called CAP. And we've been doing this particular training program among schools who sign up with us. It's a year-long program where we run kind of counseling plus awareness program in the schools. See, why we say we run this among schools who sign up with us, because of the financial implication. We have staff strength, we have to send people out there, we have to employ counselors, and also legal aid for the students if they ever need them and all that. So definitely there is a cost involved to it by doing this. I think more organizations should come into this area where they can do something about spreading awareness and educate the next generation at least. We have lost one generation, undoubtedly.
So, ma'am, you're essentially saying that we need to promote vigilance among the citizens of our country.
Exactly. For them, they need to understand that there is a problem.
All right. So what remedies do the victims have in the case of cross-border cyber issues? Since we've talked about the Indian domain, because when the cybercrime involves another country, the procedure just becomes tedious and unfamiliar. And are foreign officers cooperative in this regard?
See, among the countries where India has a treaty or has an understanding, yes, we have all the kind of cooperation because it's legal. Though there is a little bit of lag and little bit of written, procedural problems and all that. Among the countries where we have a treaty, trade treaty or a cyber IT treaty, we do definitely have that kind of a cooperation. Among the countries where we are hostile with, we cannot do anything about it, which is one of the major reasons why we do not have a proper end to certain problems that we see today, because most of the such problems originate or have some kind of a link with countries that are hostile to India. So we have to suffer.
All right. So what do you believe that about the fact that once data goes online, it sort of just remains permanent? And is it possible to completely erase the data from the web to sort of prevent the sense of unease and the re-victimization of the victim? And in this case, what are the possible remedies for the victim of revenge porn?
Again, see, with the AI thing and all coming in, it is much easier than what we were talking about, say, 5-10 years back, where we didn't have any kind of an access to find out. It was like, finding out a picture from the internet is like searching for a mustard seed among a sack of hay. It is not even finding a needle. It might prick somewhere, but then imagine finding a mustard seed from the pack of hay. It is impossible to do that. So it was that difficult 5 to 10 years back, but then now with the AI in place, it is quite a little easier. It's getting a little more, you can actually tell them, yes, it is possible. We can try something. But again, the issue is that if such data is in the hands of servers which belong to hostile countries, then we are lost. So, so the primary thumb rule that all of us need to understand when we transact on the space of cyberspace is that once on the internet, forever on the internet.
All right.
There's no 100% deletion. So instead of thinking twice, you have to think at least 200 times before you upload anything there, before you transact anything there. So think, ponder, ask yourself questions, and if you have answers, then yes, go ahead with it.
So even the country's geopolitical situation affects something as small as the cyber activity of an individual in that country.
Absolutely.
So coming to the victims, focusing on that, what impact does this crime or hate speech online have on the victims, other than the obvious impact? And how are there organizations in our country to help them cope up with it? And what can be done to cope up with it?
See, the psychological impact that it creates, any kind of a hate speech that gets it creates is really, really bad, especially among children. They tend to believe what they see, what they hear multiple times. So the psychological impact is really hard. Like, for example, if you actually run the statistics among the psychologists, they say there's an increased level of even sexual orientation or sexual pervertism among the younger children today, because they are exposed to unwanted data. It is not wrong information or wrong data, but they're exposed to information which is not right for their age at that time. Then they tend to believe what they see, what they understand, and then they think that is right.
Yes.
So there's a lot of so this kind of a thing is difficult to manage, because people really need to understand that there is a problem like this. In a country like India, where even discussing certain psychological impacts is a taboo. I'm not just talking about the sexual side, every kind of a thing. See, if I'm scared, if I am scared of darkness, even talking about that is a taboo in India, because the first question they ask is, "Pagal ho kya? Are you mad?" kind of a thing, So the chat is not, it is not like, okay, you need help, or probably you have a problem, like in a physical condition. You have probably a pain in your cheek or your pain in your tooth. You have to address it. So this is something like that, where you have a scare for a certain thing and you need to address it. That is not accepted in India, in a country like India at all. So this is one thing that again needs a lot of awareness, a lot of education among the society, the social stratum, and needs to change. And the helping definitely can be done only by the counselors or the psychological professionals. I'm not a professional on that area, but they are the people who can actually do this thing. And if you look at it, I think 2014, when we were talking about, in a conference, when we were talking about having space, like, medical spaces, to address the problem called internet addiction or cyber addiction. People actually called us insane. They said, "What nonsense? What nonsense are we talking about?" For 2018, we saw multiple specialty hospitals opening up centers like that.
Absolutely.
So that change will happen.
Right. And a very important example of this is how, a lot of us women can remember being subjected to this image of the perfect woman, how she's supposed to look like. And we always saw that in the media that we consumed. And that is ingrained in our mind in a way that we wanted to be that. And that sort of just shapes our mentality. And this is how the cyberspace affects us in a way.
But
So
do you think the pressure is only on the women? There's a lot of pressure on men also. If you actually look at it, I mean, if we look at it, the society puts a lot of pressure on men also, saying that, they are the people who are or should be responsible of taking care of the household.
Right. Right.
All right. So there is a pressure on them also. They cannot do what they like, because they are supposed to earn so much. If you're 20, 24 and you don't own a car, you don't have a house, you don't have a 6-digit salary, then you are supposed to be a loser. So there's a lot of pressure on men also. It's just not on being the perfect woman that we have. We can talk about it because we are women. But there's a lot of pressure on men also. So there are a lot of things that women also women express. I have clients who come up to me and say, I have a salary, I work, I'm educated so much, but because there is a lot of issue I'm going for a divorce, but I will not rejoin my job till I get my alimony, because I'm supposed to get it. He is supposed to take care of me.
Absolutely.
So where is the question of self-respect among women happening? Because he is supposed to take care of me. Why? This supposed to thing is the bigger fact. Absolutely. This is the pressure there. Both the sides of the society really puts it on us. Women are supposed to do so many things. Men are supposed to do so many things. Like, I've gone through enough of it, because I'm not a homemaker, basically. I don't like the domestic kind of a work. So I'm supposed to be not the perfect woman all my life. But then I enjoy it. I say, anybody cooks, I can eat. I don't want to cook it myself. So then it's how you want to actually want to accept yourself, and how you want to just let the world be and be yourself. which is more
Absolutely.
important. I don't think there is any need for anybody to take that kind of a pressure, whether any gender, let it be. It's just one life for us.
Absolutely. I completely agree with your point. And coming to our traditional criminal justice system, do you believe that our system faces any kind of evidentiary challenges when we talk about the digital arena and when we talk about the redressal of these cases?
Yes, there is a big issue because in our legal system, there's a lot of time lapse that is happening, which affects the retrieval and the representation of digital evidence. So there is a challenge that way, if you ask, in our legal system, which we are facing. Initially, there was a problem that people in the legal system were not aware or educated enough on this platform, which is slowly changing nowadays. But then again, this question of, getting Tariq pe Tariq kind of thing that happens, where you get a posting today and then the next posting is after 8 months, and by then your digital gadget lies dormant without even getting a circuit running through it. Then it loses its its active nature, and then we lose the data. There's always a chance, a risk of losing data.
Right. So, is the traditional way of investigation efficient enough to investigate the technical cybercrimes? Or in other words, is our procedural system ironclad to deal with this surge in cybercrimes in our country?
I think it's a combination of both. Wherever I have been part of any investigation, it's a combination of both. There is a lot of traditional insightfulness and experience and intuition that works a lot. All right. From the first case to this, to whatever I am today working on, there's a lot of that aspects that work. Initially, we were working on digital things where I was new to this particular industry. I didn't have that kind of experience or intuition, but I saw that, the case moved forward because of the intuition and the experience that the officers around me then had, who didn't even know how to switch on a mobile at that time. So it was their intuition, their experience, their traditional methodology that helped, definitely. So it's definitely a combination of everything.
So you're saying that being in India, it just brings a new character to the entire investigation.
Absolutely. It's not just India, anywhere. I mean, when you talk about cyber platform, it is global. It's the same language world over. We do not have a separate language at all.
All right. So do you think that there is a paucity of technical tools and skilled human resources in the Indian courts to effectively deal with these cases of cybercrimes?
Yes, there is a small, like I told you, the legal system can only follow the technology. So when we are talking about version 7 or 11 in conducting or committing the crime today, the legal system probably would have the permission only to work on version 4 or 5. And they will need that kind of procedure to get upgraded. I'm just giving you an example, in layman's language, they definitely need that space and time to upgrade themselves. So when law follows technology, there is always a lag. It will not match the speed. But probably we can try to, make it less slower, that's all, but it will always be behind technology.
All right. So since this is an awareness related video, and that is what our organization is pointed towards, could you just briefly tell us the procedure of filing a complaint in a cyber cell, and if there is any operational manual that lays this standard operating procedure that is followed in these cases?
No, there is no operational manual. There is an investigative manual which was approved by the Home Department in the year, I think, 2006, which was formulated by Asian School of Cyber with the help of Asian School of Cyber Laws. That's the best of my information. So there is an investigative manual which was created once. But operational manual, no, there is no operational manual as such. Reporting can be done on the government website. I think you will have to check up it. I think it is cybercrime.gov.in, where the reporting can be done. But if a reporting is done on a site like that, there is no obligation on the part of the legal system to get back to you with what has happened on your complaint. So if there is something where you need a follow-up on it, you have to go and file a petition yourself. It can just be a petition initially. And if you really think there is substance in it, then you can press for an FIR. Every issue that you raise need not be a FIR filed in the court. So
All
that is the
right.
procedure, and the complaint can just be written out on a piece of white paper. That's it, because it's a criminal offense. And most of the issues that you talk about on cyberspace are criminal offenses. So it can just be a white paper complaint from the person.
Right. So, coming to punishment now, do you think the maximum tenure of punishment under the Information Technology Act is enough, or should it be increased?
Well, certain cases, when you look at it, I really feel it should have been much worse. The punishment should have been much worse. But then when you look at the other laws in India, IT Act is much stronger and much stringent in the cause of punishment. But I think it could be, I mean, it can be, if you need people to be scared of, they should be really scared. It cannot be like,
Absolutely. I mean, I think greater punishment will sort of, hinder the person more from doing the crime.
Definitely. See, it's not that I keep telling the world that, it's not because I don't want to murder anybody. If I was given permission to murder, and if it was considered legal, I would have definitely shot off one or two, at least, minimum. Around me, 44 years of existence, definitely. So it's not because we all want to, or we do not want to get into some kind of a activity like that. It's what stops us is basically the sense of responsibility and and also the fear of punishment and depriving our freedom. So definitely, I think that creates a lot of impact.
Definitely. We're down to our last two questions now. What do you think is the effective change that a professional in the field like you would like to see in cybercrime legislations?
Like I told you, not a dramatic change, but I would definitely love to see that Section 66A is brought back with certain rules and regulations, because that would definitely help, a lot of children, a lot of women, and a lot of, kind of weaker people who need to be empowered, given strength. Section 66A was very strong. So with certain rules and regulations in place, I would definitely love to see that come back. And now currently looking forward to the data privacy rules and regulations that is being, I've been waiting since 2018 for that, for the government to, publish it.
All right. So lastly, what precautions can one take to protect himself or herself against these cybercrimes? Just the basic things.
Understand the technology, understand your gadget, learn about what the transactions you want to make, and be alert, aware.
Right.
There is no easy way out there. Learn, be aware, be alert. This is and use only those things that you are capable of managing. Don't get into technology just for the sake that your peer is using it, your neighbor is using it, or otherwise you are scared that you might just be tagged as somebody who is not capable enough in the society. This doesn't define your capability at all.
Right.
Take only those risks that we are capable of handling, because there is a risk.
All right.
Understand, learn.
All right. So that marks the end of our interview today. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing your valuable time today. This was truly an eye-opening experience for me, as well as I'm sure our viewers as well. Thank you very much. And thank you all for watching.
Thank
Aditi, you
you.
can just stop recording.